It's an honor and a privilege to interview one of the most esteemed veterinarians in the state of Washington and have him share highlights of his illustrious career with us. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Everett Macomber. Dr. Macomber, would you share with us the veterinary school that you attended, the year that you graduated, and the type of practice that you've enjoyed?
I would, Tom. I attended Washington State University College of Veterinary Medicine and graduated in 1963 with a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree. Following graduation, I came back to Centralia. I grew up not far from here and came back to an established practice with Drs. Ritter and Doobie. At that time, owned the practice, and it was basically a mixed practice, and even today it's still a mixed practice. And I fairly much specialized in equine, really kind of by accident, but that worked out very well for me, and I enjoyed it very much.
Dr. Macomber, is it okay if I refer to you as Everett in our
It sure is. That would be fine with me.
Okay, well great. Well, to start with, if you could pick one of your most interesting or unusual experiences as a veterinarian, what would it be?
Well, I think, there have been a lot of unusual experiences, but one that comes to mind rather vividly is years ago I was called to a farm to deliver a foal. The mare was having trouble foaling, and after I worked on the mare for about an hour, I realized that I was not going to be able to deliver that foal, and so after discussion with the owner and with the farm manager, we decided to do a cesarean section. And so in that process, we did the cesarean in the stall at the barn on the farm, and when I delivered the foal, it was Siamese twins that were attached at the thorax. And so it was a great challenge to deliver that one. And then the owner elected to have the mare bred in California, and I was really hesitant about sending the mare down to California after all the trouble we'd had with her having the foal. But nevertheless, he took her to California and she got in foal, and then he brought her back home, and she was a fairly expensive mare. She'd earned $300,000, and at that time, that was in the 1970s, he felt like he would really like to have another foal out of that mare. And so when he brought her home, he turned her out into the pasture, and they took her out. He lived in Oregon, and turned the mare loose, and she ran across the field and hit the board fence and killed her.
Oh my gosh. So all your heroic work ended up in a fatal accident anyway.
It certainly did. That's the way it goes some days.
Oh my gosh. But that's a real tribute to your skills to make that decision for those of us that have been stall side and know exactly what you went through. So yeah, that has to be a very memorable one, plus to see that kind of foal inside the mare and to say, oh my gosh, what do you have?
Yeah, it really was an unusual situation. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Everett, what motivated you to select the path of practice that you embarked upon?
Well, really, when I got out of veterinary school, I really had planned to do a dairy practice. I grew up on a dairy farm in a little town called Oakville, and we decided, or when I got out of school, I thought, there are a lot of dairies in this area, and I would like to do a dairy practice. And I started out doing that dairy practice and was really enjoying it. And Dr. Ritter, who was one of the senior partners in the practice, experienced a heart attack. And as a result of that heart attack, he was unable to continue his work as an equine practitioner in the area. And so I said, well, I'll see if I can fill in that space for the time being. And so I got started in doing the equine practice, and I really enjoyed it, and it evolved to be a specialization that I really enjoyed.
So now where is Oakville?
Oakville is about 20 miles west of here, 20 miles west of Centralia, okay, on Highway 12.
And what kind of cows were on your dairy farm?
We had, on the farm that I grew up on, we had Holsteins and Jerseys.
So a combination of both.
A combination of both.
A good blend of milk.
It made a good blend of milk. And,
all right.
We really, I had a great appreciation for the dairy farmers.
All right. But once you got the taste of the horse, you were hooked.
Well, it was one of those situations where we needed someone in the practice to do the horses, and the other persons in the practice, we were a multi-veterinarian practice at the time, so it was a case of necessity, and it filled my bill very well.
So you've been good to the horse, and the horse has been good to you.
It's worked great. Yes, it has.
So there are probably many, but would you be willing to share with us one of your fondest memories while practicing in veterinary medicine?
Well, I really think that the thing that I've enjoyed the most about the practice is working with people. For some reason, as I was growing up and recognizing that I really liked working with animals, but I also realized that working with people was a great event for me, and so that's one of the reasons that I chose veterinary medicine.
Well, Everett, I'd have to say for as long as I've known you, and that goes back at least 25 plus years, you do have very good people skills, and it shows very much that you are fond of people, and that that really plays itself out.
That's the interesting part of practice, really. You know, if you're going to be in clinical practice, you really need to like people, because that's an important part of your bedside manner, and it's an important part of learning the art of veterinary medicine.
Well, that leads me right into my next question for you, is that there are many people that come alongside us in our lives, as we both know, but who was your most significant mentor?
I would probably have to say Dr. Bill Ritter, a veterinarian who started the practice. He was a person who really thought a lot about people, but he was also an excellent veterinarian. And over the time, I had a number of real mentors that I felt like that I looked upon as people I would like to emulate. Another one of those was George Doobie, and Dr. Doobie was a veterinarian who did not like horses. He was afraid of horses, but he did like cattle, and he liked people, and he liked organized veterinary medicine, and he was a past president of the Washington State Veterinary Medical Association and a past president of the Western States Veterinary Medical Association. So I looked at those two people, since they were both in the practice, that they were good mentors for me. As I progressed through the organized veterinary medicine process, I really learned to appreciate Leo Bustad. Leo was a great mentor and gave me a lot of good advice about veterinary medicine over the years.
So out of your practice setting, Dr. Ritter and Dr. Doobie then kind of rolled all their mentorship into one. So you got both the people skills and the organized veterinary medicine, the love for that, if you will.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I did.
Well, and of course, Dr. Bustad mentored many people, so
He did,
that's
yeah.
Not a surprise there.
Yeah.
So, given all that, what do you feel? I know you contribute in many ways through the years, but if you have to look back over the years that you've done, what is you think your most significant contribution to veterinary medicine in Washington State?
Well, you know, I really think that probably my efforts to become AVMA president was one of the most significant things that I was able to accomplish. And as a result of the AVMA presidency, I reflect upon the issues that we had with the extra label drug use initiative and the challenges that we had leading up to introduction of that to Congress. And the year that I was elected president-elect to the AVMA presidency, I made it a priority that I would focus on getting that issue through Congress. And so at a meeting in Washington, D.C. at the AVMA Governmental Relations Division office after I was elected president-elect, I advised the staff that this was going to be a priority during my time, and the staff was very receptive to taken a hold of this and making this a priority for the AVMA office. And as a result of that, it did come to pass.
Well, that certainly has stood the test of time. So that contribution was not only significant for the veterinarians in the state of Washington, but it was very much significant for veterinarians in the entire United States.
Well, it was a great challenge. You know, for me, I needed to attend the grassroots level of veterinary medicine, so I would attend nearly all of the state meetings throughout the United States in the year I was president-elect and president, and that gave us the opportunity for the veterinarians then to contact their congressmen and get them on board, and that's exactly how it happened.
Well, you certainly set the stage for other AVMA presidents and others that are involved in organized veterinary medicine, and that certainly was a very fun time for me to be involved with your election process to AVMA presidency back in the early 90s. So.
Well, it was really appreciated, all the efforts that you put into getting me elected and to support the election process, because it was a national campaign.
Yeah, it was great. In your career, I know you've seen many, many changes, you know, but what is the biggest change that you think you've seen since graduation?
Well, there have been a large number of changes in veterinary medicine, but clearly, to me, the largest change has been the gender change. When I went to veterinary school, there was only 2 females in my class, and for the next 2 or 3 years, there was 2 to 3 or 4, and gradually over the time that has increased to where now 80% of the class is women becoming veterinarians, and that has been probably the most significant change that I have seen.
That certainly is true, and I'm certainly glad that we have women in veterinary medicine, because my wife is a veterinarian,
right.
So that has worked out very well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So in closing, Everett, this has been a great, delightful discussion to have you share with us, you know, a brief glimpse into your illustrious career. But if you could close with us, and if you could share with us one priceless story, what would it be?
Well, there are many stories, but one that comes to mind is one that I learned after I had been in practice about 3 or 4 years. I was called out to a farm to deliver a calf, and as a result, when I was delivering this calf, or trying to deliver this calf, it became obvious I was not going to be successful. And this farm was really a pretty run-down looking farm, and the farmer was in kind of dilapidated clothing, and I was really feeling sorry for the guy, and so I suggested that we do a cesarean section on this cow, and so he agreed to it, and he said that would be fine, and so we did the cesarean section, and I delivered a nice live calf, and things went very well, and I closed her all up, and things were going very well, and so when it came time to write out the bill, I looked at him and I looked at the farm, and I thought, boy, this poor guy, he's really, really struggling here to make a living and survive this thing. So I made out the bill, but when I did, then I decided I'm going to give him a break here, and so I cut the bill in half. And so I got back to the office, and I was telling one of the owners about what I did, and he said, "You did what?" And I said, "Well, the poor guy, he's just really struggling out there on that farm." And I said, so I just cut the bill in half. I felt so sorry for him. And the owner turned to me and he said, "Do you know who that guy was?" And I said, "Well, no, I just know his name." And he said, "Well, that guy owns half of Olympia." And so he said, "You just gave him another break."
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we started with the dystocia, and
We ended
with the C-section, and we ended with one also. As a large animal practitioner, it certainly seems like reproduction and dystocias and birthings are certainly made up quite a component of our day, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It made up a significant part of the practice. It really has. But I've enjoyed it so much. It's a great career.
Well, thank you for sharing, and enjoy your retirement.
Okay, thank you very much.